Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper and are equally relevant for your UPSC preparation. Articles dated 21st of October 2022 are listed on your screen, and the time stamping along with the notes in PDF and Word format are given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. Here is your question for weekly answer writing practice. The question says that the office of governor has become controversial, leading to center-state tensions. In this regard, discuss the reforms needed to be brought in the process of appointment and removal of governors. You should answer this question under 250 words and try to submit it before Saturday to get it evaluated by the dedicated team of evaluators at RAU'S IAS. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1st and talks about the recent move taken by the Competition Commission of India to impose a fine or a penalty of 1338 crores on the IT giant Google. The context says that the Competition Commission of India has imposed this fine on Google for abusing its dominant position in multiple markets in Android mobile device ecosystem. Now, as you must have been aware that Android is an operating system which is used in multiple mobile phones across the world. Apart from this, there is another operating system known by the term iOS used by Apple computers. Both these operating systems have developed their ecosystem in such a manner that most of the mobile phones which are using these operating systems have to abide by the compulsory applications. As iOS is part of Apple, here the operating system developer and the mobile phone developer are the same. However, in case of Android, the operating system developer is Google, who is the owner of operating system Android since 2005. However, many companies such as Samsung, Huawei, and even Oppo are utilizing these operating systems which they buy from the Google under the license, pay the heavy amount to the Google for using that operating system. However, when these mobile phones are being manufactured, Google, through their Android mobile device ecosystem, forces these manufacturing companies or the original equipment manufacturer to utilize that operating system and certain forced applications to be installed on it. For example, if you are using a Samsung mobile phone, it will be compulsory for you to install the applications such as Google Maps or Google Search Engine. Such kind of forced applications have been seen to go against the free market forces and open choices available to the manufacturer. So now Samsung is bounded by the Google to utilize the Google application in a compulsory and a forced manner. That has left Samsung to experiment and develop its own application for the matter. Now, in order to have a GPS-enabled navigation application, Samsung have to rely on the Google Maps rather than developing its own ecosystem. Competition Commission of India, which is a statutory body, has taken the cognizance of this misuse of power by the Google and has enforced 1337 crore rupee fine on the company. The relevance of this article is straightforward. Apart from the context itself, we are going to discuss about the Competition Commission of India and its role in promoting competition in the industrial and the service sector of India. Hence, it is important under General Studies Mains GS Paper 2 with the heading of statutory bodies. Competition Commission of India was created as a statutory body under the Competition Act 2002, which was passed by the Parliament in that year. Now, Competition Commission of India has replaced the MRTP Act, which was focusing more on restricting the monopoly trade practices in Indian market. Now, instead of restricting the monopoly practices, government has gone towards the positive role of regulatory framework where they are saying that instead of restricting the monopoly in the Indian market, it should be adopted that regulators should promote the competition among the companies. So let's say there's a company which is A and it is a monopoly. Through monopoly, we mean that there's a single seller or a single firm selling a unique product. So let's say company A is selling a unique product in the market. However, this company A is running a monopoly. So there is no other company in the market which can provide the same product at a same price. Now this is a monopoly. So company A can have the discrimination prices. They can charge any price to the consumer and consumer have to pay the same price because they are bounded by the single seller. Now, previously, government was looking to control these kind of monopoly practices. But instead of that, now government has shifted towards giving the avenue for more competition. Now, the government is allowing through the regulatory framework that the same product can be produced by company A, B, C or even D. And that is the reason why Competition Commission of India has been restricting the monopolization and cartelization. Cartelization is the formation of a cartel or a small group by companies and they follow the same kind of strategies, same kind of pricing strategies in order to create a small group to have more benefits instead of competing with each other. So Competition Commission of India was created to replace the MRTP Act and later on this act was amended in 2007. Under this act, Competition Commission of India was founded and along with this, Competition Appellate Tribunal or CAT was also founded. The composition of the commission is that it will have a chairperson along with the 6 members and all of them are appointed by the central government. The mandate of the commission is straightforward. It will look into anti-competitive agreements. See, they have not used the word monopoly. Monopoly word has been removed. So now it is more a promotive act. So they will check into anti-competitive activity. So what we have seen in the case is that over here, the Google was using the anti-competitive activity. That is, Google is not allowing the Samsung, Huawei or any other phone company to utilize their own operating system, to utilize their own applications. It is instead forcing them to download the Google and the Android-led applications for the harassment. So this is more like an anti-competition activity. So CCI is going to promote the anti-competitive agreement. They are going to prohibit the misuse of dominance by strong companies like Google in the market over the weak organizations. It will also regulate the merger and the acquisitions or even the takeovers. For example, there was a takeover of Flipkart by a giant wholesale company known by the name Walmart. Now, if this kind of takeover is not in the competitive sense, let's say Walmart is looking to buy Flipkart to kill the competition in the market. However, even after buying the Flipkart, the competition of e-commerce has not gone into the hands of a single company. So now we have many other companies, including the Amazon. That is the reason why this merger and acquisition was not claimed to be anti-competitive by Competition Commission of India. This act also provides for the establishment of Competition Commission of India to prevent the practices that are adverse to the competition, to promote the competition. So it is more like a positive regulation. It will protect the interest of the consumer and it will also provide the freedom of trade carried on by the other participants in the Indian market. We should be aware that whatever decision taken by CCI can be challenged in the NCLAT, which is National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. This tribunal was created under the Companies Act 2013, that is after 10 years of the formation of CCI, and it shall be applicable as an appellate tribunal for the purpose of Competition Act. So let's say CCI has now filed a case against Google. So if Google has some issues, Google can approach NCLAT for the resolution of the claim. This tribunal will hear and dispose the appeals against any direction, any order, any decision made by CCI. So this would have been the example. Now, these are the two important terms that you should know with respect to this act, and both these terms are mentioned and clearly defined in the act as well. According to the act, cartel is an association of producers, sellers, distribution, traders, or even the service providers who limit themselves, control and attempt to control the production, distribution, sale, price, or even the trade in goods or the provision of services. Now, let me give you an example. Assume that there are many oil companies, and these oil companies are with the name, let's say A, B, C, and D. So what these companies are doing, they are selling oil at different prices. Let's say at $1, at $2, at $3, and at $4. So the company D, which is selling at $4, is going to have low number of consumer base. On the other hand, the company A, which is selling at $1, will have large consumer base but small profit. So what these companies will do, they will form a group, and this group will be known as cartel, and they will charge a price, let's say $2.5 for, let's say, 1 liter of petrol, and that's how they are going to earn the best profit, which is good for all these four firms. However, it is higher than $1, so it is against the consumers. It is less than $4, so it is more like a self benefit for these companies. Hence, Competition Commission of India tries to reduce down the cartelization in the Indian market. On the other hand, monopoly shows a structure in the economy where there is a single seller who is selling a unique product in the market. The best example here could be the Indian Railways. So in order to transport on a railway, you have to abide by the Indian Railway, which is a government owned and government operated firm. You will not have the private running railway or a railway track or a railway station. However, there might be some degree of privatization as we have seen recently. But more or less, the Indian Railway is the only one and the only railway service provider in the country. There is no other one. And as railway is a unique product, so we can say that yes, Indian Railway shows the highest degree of monopolization in India. In this, there is a one seller which has no competition because it is the only one. And this is because there is no close substitute. So there is no substitute for railways in India. There is no Reliance Railway, there is no Tata Railway in India. So we cannot say that it is going to have a close substitute. So Competition Commission of India view monopoly as a dominant position enjoyed in the market and try to inquire and investigate to reduce down the monopolization in the Indian economy. With this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 17, that is on the international page. However, this topic is more relevant with respect to the post-independence history. The article talks about the Indo-China War of 1962, that is after India's independence, and how this war has shaped the international relation. The context says that Indo-China War was a battle that took place between India and China from October 20 to November 21. So it was almost a month-long war between these two Asian neighbors that took place in 1962. Now, what was the real reason? The immediate reason was that China was constructing a military road throughout the 1950s in the areas which were close or on the periphery of Tibet and Xinjiang. When India tried to object these road construction and the Chinese presence in these areas, it triggered the conflict between these two countries and later on led to the sharp border clashes that we have even seen in these two important areas. Now, because of this, China was angry on India. India wanted to go for the diplomatic channel to resolve the bilateral border issues, but China waged a war against India. And this war was not even with a warning. So it came without a warning on Indian soil, and the war was waged on India's northeast area, that is Arunachal area, and the Ladakh area or the Aksai Chin. During the war, China was far better and superior in terms of its strategy, preparedness, and that is the reason why China was able to capture much of the territory in the Aksai Chin, that is northeastern part of Ladakh. On the other hand, Arunachal Pradesh remained in the hand of India. China actually made a unilateral withdrawal during the war. Now, when India got independence in 1947 and China in 1949, both these countries were looking for their territorial consolidation. During their territorial consolidation, race, religion, and linguistic basis remains the far more important issue than anything else. So China tried to capture the areas where the linguistic and racial superiority belonging to China or close to or even similar to China were found. And that is one of the reasons why it considered Tibet to be a close proximity to the culture of China rather than that of the India. When China tried to capture Tibet, there was a outflow of many Tibetans coming to India, including the Dalai Lama. When India accepted Dalai Lama with open heart, China was not happy with that. China also wanted to go for capturing the peripheral area of Tibet after capturing the Tibet itself. So when China came across the existence of Arunachal Pradesh and its relation with India, and the open spaces of Aksai Chin or the northeastern part of Ladakh, China made a move to capture these areas in a forceful manner. When India was not prepared to go for war, as India was already under the stress, it had already fought on multiple fronts and multiple times with Pakistan. India was also dealing along with the hunger problem and the issues with its 5-year plan. India was already under the stress of economic burden. India had a huge debt on its, and India was going through the initial phase of economic development. India was looking under the prime ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru to have a cordial relation with China. In this regard, India launched the Panchsheel program to have a mutual understanding, to have a mutual respect for each other's territory. India also launched the Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai program to have a good relations with China. But China had a different plans, and it had planned to capture the areas which had close proximity with Tibet, because China considered Tibet to be the most strategic part of its mainland. Now, as you can see on this map, the yellow shaded portion are the areas which are claimed by China. These areas can also be seen in the states like Uttarakhand. However, they are under India's control. Similarly, the Arunachal Pradesh is also claimed by China, but it is under the administrative power of India. On the other hand, the Aksai Chin is controlled by China, and it was actually controlled by China since 1962 war. When we talk about the real reasons behind the war, so the first one was the inroads or the construction of infrastructure by China in Aksai Chin, superiority claim by Asian powers, where India and China, both newly independent countries, were looking to have a superiority claim in Asia. And China thought that once they capture Indian territory, they will be in a better position to have more say or to subjugate India on the international diplomacy. Along with this, there was also the militarization of Tibet area. Then there was the Dalai Lama issue, where India openly supported Tibet to be an independent area. All these issues combined together and led to the anguish between India and China. India tried the diplomatic rule, however, China adopted the military infiltration. Now, why India lost this battle? India, first of all, was not prepared in a preemptive mode. India never thought that there will be a strike from China, as India was looking for a cordial and bilateral peaceful relationship. India deployed only 2 small divisions of troops on both these areas. On the other hand, China had deployed the entire company of its troops over the places. India was ill prepared to have a war in the cold mountain areas. So Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh are very high areas in terms of altitude as well as very cold in terms of the temperature. So Indian soldiers were not equipped to fight on those lines. Chinese, on the other hand, had cut off India's telephone lines so that India will lose out on its communication with the forces which were deployed over there. India at that moment had a bitter relationship with US and UK because both these powers were under the NATO organization, and NATO was not in favor to provide help to those countries which were not aligned to the capitalist powers. And lastly, India had a poor military infrastructure. So India never thought of constructing the roads in Aksai Chin. India never thought to have a deployment of military infrastructure such as permanent army stations in the Aksai Chin region. And all these reasons led to the loss of India in the Indo-China war. And this is the first and the last war ever fought between India and China, and the only war that India has ever lost to the other country. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 16 and talks about the future missions to be launched by Indian Space Research Organization. The crux of the article, which is relevant for the UPSC, is the launch of Chandrayaan 3 that is scheduled to be launched next year, that is 2023. Chandrayaan 3 is the third satellite to be launched in a sequence to go and have experiments over the surface of Moon. Chandrayaan 3 has an objective similar to the objective which was there for Chandrayaan 2 because of the reason that Chandrayaan 2 became a failure in its lander. Chandrayaan 3 is going to have a lander and a rover, but there will be no orbiter for the satellite. It will be launched by the Heavy Launched Satellite Vehicle, that is GSLV Mark III, which is the heaviest satellite lifting launch vehicle in India right now. Now, from the perspective of UPSC, it is important for the student to understand the basic differences between different components of Chandrayaan. Now, this is your GSLV, that is Geosynchronized Launched Vehicle Mark III. Mark III is the version of this satellite launch vehicle. It is used to launch the satellite and will be used in the future as well. The second thing is the lunar orbit. Third is your Vikram lander, and the fourth one is Pragyan. These are the three important components that are going to be part of the entire project. Lunar orbit is the one which is used to scan the surface of Moon from above the ground. Vikram is going to be the one which will land on the surface but will remain stationary at a position. Inside the Vikram, there will be a small vehicle which will have 6 moving wheels that will be used as a rover and will be named as Pragyan. In Chandrayaan 2, all 3 components were there, but in Chandrayaan 3, we will only have the lander and the rover. However, orbiter will not be there in this project. Now let us look into the basic comparison between what Chandrayaan 1 was and how Chandrayaan 2 was different from it. Chandrayaan 1 was India's first lunar mission ever launched, and it was a very successful mission which actually landed a small piece of satellite which had the Indian flag over it. It was followed by Chandrayaan 2, however it remained a failure project. In Chandrayaan 1, there was no landing on the surface of the Moon. It had a curve weight of around 1.3 tons. On the other hand, Chandrayaan 2 had a lander and a rover for soft landing and maneuverability. The Chandrayaan 2 was actually much heavier than the Chandrayaan 1 for the basic reason that it had 3 different components. Chandrayaan 1 was launched by Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, which is known to launch smaller and lighter satellite, while on the other hand, Chandrayaan 2 used the GSLV Mark III. In Chandrayaan 1, we had different objects such as Mini SAR, which was used to capture the ice and water deposits over the surface of the Moon, and it was successful in doing so. It also carried 5 different payloads. Payloads are the different experimenting objects used in the satellite. And these 5 payloads were designed by NASA, European Space Agency, and Bulgarian Aerospace Agency. On the other hand, Chandrayaan 2 was more an indigenous effort where we used the lander Vikram and rover Pragyan to have experiment on the surface of the Moon. It had 14 payloads and 1 from NASA as well. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article appeared on page 16 of Delhi edition Hindu newspaper and talks about the recent reservations made by the National Commission for Scheduled Caste towards the forest conservation rules launched by the Union government recently. The National Commission for Scheduled Caste chief has said that these rules goes against the rights of the tribal people and the forest dwellers because their mandatory consent towards the transfer of projects for non-forest use has been eliminated in the new rules. It simply means that now if certain projects are being undertaken, government and the evaluator authorities may not consult the tribal communities living in that particular area. In this respect, these rules are important for your General Studies Paper 3 under the category of Environment in the mains examination. So let us analyze what these rules are and why have they been criticized. The first aspect of these rules are that they have called for creating different committees, and all these committees are going to be bureaucratic. There will be three types of committees, first being the advisory committee, then the regional empowered committee at the regional offices, and the screening committee at state and the union territory level. Advisory committee is going to advise and recommend on different approvals for the projects. The project screening committee is going to have the review of the proposals where there is a diversion of the forest land. And this is the major concern, that this is not going to have the participation from the tribal committee on itself. However, the best thing about this screening committee is that it is going to provide the time-bound review of different projects between 60 to 150 days. And the last one is the Regional Empowered Committee. All these kind of committees are going to have the review of the linear projects such as roads, highways and others. And these rules provide that if the compensatory for afforestation cannot take place in a particular state, then the particular agency which is undertaking the compensatory afforestation may provide the same in the other state as well. So let us analyze whether these rules are right in the benefit of the environment or not. Now, these are the following benefits which are associated with these rules. The first one is that these rules are going to incentivize the afforestation in the protected area as well, which were not the case previously. As we have discussed previously, these rules are going to provide for the compensatory afforestation in the other states as well. For example, there is a company A which has undertaken or the clearance of the forest in, let's say, Uttar Pradesh, and they have cleared a patch of forest in the Uttar Pradesh. However, in order to compensate, they are not completely or mandatorily bounded to provide compensatory afforestation in the state of Uttar Pradesh. They can provide the same afforestation, let's say, in the state of Rajasthan as well, on the same size of land. The third basic merit of this rules is that these are going to be project screening committees are going to be provided even at the state and the union territories, which were not there previously. And the last one, it has incentivized people to use agri-forestry for the compensatory afforestation target meeting. Now, there are certain limitations which are attached to these rules. The first one is that these rules are not clear about the authority who is going to have the final accountability towards the people if the projects are against the environment. On this, the rules are absolutely silent. There has been the dilution of the Gram Sabha consent in order to provide the final approval to the screening committee. Apart from that, the forest dwellers' mandatory rehabilitation has been removed, and these are the two concerns which were highlighted in the article and were raised by the National Commission on Scheduled Tribe. And the last one is that these rules do not provide any timeline for granting of title and land rights to those people who have been rehabilitated. And that is a concern that National Commission on Scheduled Tribe has asked the union government to put these rules on hold without even implementing them as of now. With this discussion in place, now we have come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.